Hey everyone! In this video, we'll take a look at the Retouch module of the Post Pro panel, which consists of industry-standard tools and techniques used for high-end retouching. The first section is Heal and Clone. The Normal button creates a normal layer and auto-selects the Spot Healing Brush tool. For basic healing or cloning work, use the normal layer. You can also switch to the Healing Brush or Clone Stamp tool if you require more control. The Lighten button creates a Lighten Blend mode layer. And instead of the Spot Healing Brush, it auto-selects the healing brush for you to target only the dark areas. The existing light areas of the image won't be affected in this mode. The Darken button creates a Darken Blend mode layer and auto-selects the healing brush for you to target only the light areas. The existing dark areas of the image won't be affected in this mode. All these layers have layer masks and are locked in position to secure them from accidental movements. Alternatively, you can also use the Clone Stamp tool on these layers. The frequency separation section begins with 3 different blur options to choose from: Gaussian blur, surface blur, or the median. All these techniques auto-detect 8 or 16-bit images, and then based on the parameters you set, it separates the image into a high-frequency texture layer and a low-frequency blur layer. Additionally, a color blend layer is created in between the blur and texture layers in order to blend the color with a regular brush. Turning the Mixer Brush Layer toggle switch to on lets you create a mixer brush layer clipped to the blur layer. A custom mixer brush tool will be pre-selected for you to blend in the colors smoothly. And turning the Texture Heal Layer toggle switch to on lets you create a texture healing layer clipped to the texture layer. You can also turn on the layer visibility of the optional Texture Help On-Off layer to help you exaggerate and locate subtle imperfections to heal. The Healing Brush tool will be pre-selected for you to work on the Texture Heal layer. Please note that the Mixer Brush and the Texture Heal toggle switches should only be used with the standard Gaussian blur, surface blur, or the median frequency separation methods. They are not compatible with the FS3, FS5, or the high pass buttons. And if you turn any of these toggle switches off, you will be prompted that this action will delete the Mixer Brush or Texture Heal layers, and you might lose any work you've done on these layers. So only proceed if you want to delete those layers. And besides the standard frequency separation methods, we also have the new FS3 and 5 multi-split frequency separation techniques. The FS3 button auto-detects 8 or 16-bit images and separates them into 3 bands of frequency, including a new mid-frequency layer besides the standard high and low frequencies. Now you can adjust the mid-frequency using its layer opacity to fine-tune the intensity. The FS5 button auto-detects 8 or 16-bit images and separates the image into 5 bands of frequency. You can choose the preset blur settings suggested by the panel, or you can manually choose a different blur radius. The mid-frequency, which is nothing but the mid-tone contrast, adds a lot of harshness to the digital image. You can adjust the mid and lower mid-frequencies using their layer opacity sliders. You can reduce the mid-frequency completely, then adjust the lower mid-frequency to fine-tune the overall image. This gives you even more control over the FS3 technique. Now we can choose to apply this effect only to the midtones using one of the Layer Blend If midtones preset. Or we can paint in the mask to make the mid-frequencies selectively appear on the areas we want to have more depth and stand out. And you can also use standard frequency retouching methods with the FS3 and FS5 layers, or even create additional layers in between. For example, you can create a selection on the low layer and feather it, and then use Gaussian blur to smooth the transition. You can also use the Mixer Brush tool in certain areas to blend in color transitions. And on the high layer, you can use the Healing Brush or Patch tool to replace the texture. You can also make a selection first and use Content-Aware Fill or even the new AI Generative Fill to automatically generate texture. The benefit of Frequency Separation 3 and 5 is that it gives you mid-frequency controls in addition to the regular frequency separation techniques. And besides skin retouching, this technique can be used in a variety of retouching scenarios like fabrics, products, automobiles, landscapes, and architecture. The High Pass button is a smart version of the inverted high pass technique. This means that the Gaussian blur and the high pass filter parameters can be actively readjusted at any time via their smart filter layers. The brush tool will be pre-selected for you to paint and reveal the effect. In the next section, we have the various dodge and burn techniques. The Dodge and Burn plus Color Correction button creates dodge and burn layers using the curves method, along with color correction applied over them as separate hue saturation clipping layers. The brush tool with appropriate settings is pre-selected for you. If required, fine-tune the hue and saturation sliders of the color correction layers. The 50% Gray Dodge and Burn button creates a 50% gray layer set to the Soft Light Blend mode. The brush tool with ideal settings and white color is selected for you to start with dodging. The Soft Light Dodge and Burn button creates a blank layer set to the Soft Light Blend mode. The brush tool with ideal settings and white foreground color is selected for you to start with the dodging. Paint with black color to burn. You can use the X key on your keyboard to switch between dodging and burning. The Dodge button creates a single dodge layer using the curves method and pre-selects a custom brush with appropriate settings for you. The Burn button creates a single burn layer using the curves method and pre-selects the right brush for you. Retouching with the curves method versus the soft light or the 50% gray method is that curves creates a stop point and limits from going too far and overdoing the dodging and burning. And the benefit of the soft light method is that you can dodge and burn on the same layer. You can choose whichever workflow you're comfortable with. Use the visual help layers to assist you to identify the areas that need work during the dodging and burning. Turn the toggle switch on to activate the visual help layers, and then click on the individual icons of the help layers to turn them on or off. The luminosity help icon displays a black and white version of your image to help you focus on the tonal luminosity of the image. Click on the contrast icon to boost the contrast temporarily. Click on it again to turn it off when done. Click on the brighten icon to brighten the image temporarily. Darken lets you darken the image temporarily to clearly see the bright areas. Turn it off when done. The invert icon inverts the color of the image. Use it along with the luminosity help to invert the black and white tones. Color check displays the high saturation areas of the image. Dust check lets you identify any sensor dust spots in the sky or the seamless background areas of the image. This is very useful while healing. The shadow check icon displays the extreme shadow areas of the image as blue. And the highlight check icon displays the extreme highlight areas of the image as red. Once you're done with the retouching, you can turn the toggle switch off to delete all the visual help layers. For dodging and burning, the most important visual help is to desaturate and invert the image. This is because most of us can dodge more naturally than burn. And then you can add the contrast, brighten or darken help depending on the areas you're working on. Another tip with dodging and burning is to go to View and flip the image horizontal. This is because right-handed people tend to focus more on the left side of the image, and vice versa. While dodging and burning, if you use a higher flow or opacity brush setting, it's easy to overdo it in the first pass. The Fade tool allows you to pull down the opacity of your brush stroke until it blends perfectly. Keep in mind that working with 200% zoom all the time can compromise your perception of the full image. So you can use the Split View button to have two windows open, one zoomed in to focus on unifying the texture bumps, and the other zoomed out to keep an eye on global light and shadow transitions. With some images, you might experience color shifts after dodging and burning. The Color Fix button creates a blank layer set to the color blend mode and selects the brush tool ready to use. Press Alt or Option key to sample a desired skin color from your image, and then gently paint in order to match the hue and saturation in the dodge and burn affected areas. In the next video, we'll take a look at the Portrait and Beauty module, which offers high-quality skin retouching, but with a faster and automated workflow.